Valletta is a tiny capital of the Mediterranean island nation of Malta. It is the southernmost capital of Europe, and at just 0.61 square kilometers, it is the European Union's smallest capital city. This beautiful city was established in the 1500s on a peninsula by the Knights of St. John. The Order of Knights of the Hospital of St. John of Jerusalem, commonly known as the Knight Hospitaller, was a medieval Catholic order. Malta gained independence from the United Kingdom on 21st September 1964. The first thing you will see when arriving in Valletta is the Independence Monument. It shows Malta liberating herself from the shackles of the past while holding on to the national flag. The mall gardens in Floriana were named in memory of the Knights of St. John's favorite game, a game called Maglio, which was popular with the residents. Walking through the paths, visitors can also find various statues of Maltese historical figures. The St. Publius Parish Church, also known as the Floriana Parish Church, is a Roman Catholic parish church in Floriana. Dedicated to St. Publius, it was constructed at several stages between the 18th and 20th centuries. Located just outside the city gate of Valletta, the Triton's fountain is one of Malta's most important modernist landmarks. Constructed between 1952 and 1959, under no less than 3 governing bodies and conceived jointly by eminent sculptor Chevalier Vincent Apap and his collaborator draughtsman Victor Anastasi, the fountain became unofficially operational on 16th of May 1959. The fountain consists of 3 bronze tritons holding up a large basin, balanced on a concentric base built out of concrete and clad in travertine slabs. Valletta has about 320 monuments, all within an area of 0.61 square kilometers, making it one of the most concentrated historic areas in the world. The walled city was officially recognized as a World Heritage Site by UNESCO in 1980. The city is noted for its fortifications consisting of bastions, curtains and cavaliers, along with the beauty of its baroque palaces, gardens and churches. Sometimes called an open-air museum, Valletta was chosen as the European Capital of Culture in 2018. The city gate is a gate located at the entrance of Valletta. The present gate, which is the 5th one to have stood on the site, was built between 2011 and 2014 to designs of the Italian architect Renzo Piano. This park owes its name to the governor of Malta, Francis Rawdon Hastings, who was buried in this garden after his death in 1827. Designed by the English architect Edward Middleton Barry and erected in 1866, the Royal Opera House, also known as the Royal Theatre, was an opera house and performing arts venue in Valletta. The theatre received a direct hit from the aerial bombings of 1942 during the Second World War. Prior to its destruction, it was one of the most beautiful and iconic buildings in Valletta. Valletta's 16th century buildings were constructed by the Knights Hospitaller. The city was named after Jean Parisot de Vallette, who succeeded in defending the island from an Ottoman invasion during the Great Siege of Malta. In 1566, following the Great Siege of Malta, Grandmaster Jean Parisot de Vallette and his order showed interest to build a church in the name of Nativity of the Virgin as a form of thanksgiving. Our Lady of Victory Church, formerly known as the St. Anthony the Abbot Church, was the first church and building completed in Valletta. The construction was funded by the Vallette. The city is Baroque in character with elements of Mannerist, Neoclassical and modern architecture, though the Second World War left major scars on the city, particularly the destruction of the Royal Opera House. Commenced in 1574, completed in 1744, this building was occupied by the Castilian and Portuguese Knights of St. John, who were entrusted with the defense of St. Barbara Bastion. Their chief was the Grand Chancellor of the Order. The Castile Square has an irregular shape. Along its perimeter are located one of the important buildings in Valletta. The center of the square is decorated with a small fountain as well as monuments and sculptures. St. John's Co-Cathedral is a Roman Catholic co-cathedral dedicated to St. John the Baptist. It was built by the Order of St. John between 1573 and 1578, having been commissioned by Grand Master John de la Cassier as the conventual church of St. John. The cathedral is one of the most popular tourist attractions in Malta and is listed on the National Inventory of the Cultural Property of the Maltese Islands. Introduced to Malta by the Knights of St. John of Jerusalem upon taking possession of the islands in 1530, the Maltese cross has become an intrinsic part of Malta's culture and heritage, as well as a much cherished symbol by the Maltese. The church was designed by the Maltese architect Girolamo Casar, who designed several of the more prominent buildings in Valletta. In the 17th century, its interior was de-decorated in the Baroque style by Mattia Preti and other artists. The interior of the church is considered to be one of the finest examples of high Baroque architecture in Europe. The Victoria Gate was built by the British in 1885 and was named after Queen Victoria. The gate is the main entrance into the city from the Grand Harbour area, which was once the busiest part of the city. Birgu, Sanglia and Cospicua have provided a home and fortress to almost every person who settled on the islands. These three cities can rightly claim to be the cradle of Maltese history. Built in the 16th century to house knights of the Order of St. John from the Long of Provence, Auberge de Provence is an auberge in Valletta. It now houses the National Museum of Archaeology. The Great Seas Monument, also known as the Monument to the Fallen of the Great Seas, commemorates the Great Seas of Malta. It consists of 3 bronze figures symbolizing faith, civilization and valor, standing on top of a granite base. This statue of Queen Victoria stands in front of the National Library of Malta in Republic Square. Sculpted out of marble by the Sicilian artist Giuseppe Valenti, the statue depicts the Queen sitting down and wearing a shawl of Maltese lace. It was installed in the square on 5th of August 1891. Described as the heart of the capital, St. George Square is Valletta's largest and most prominent square. Dating back to the 17th century, it has witnessed some of the most notable occasions in the island's history, including royal visits, victory celebrations, and even the presentation of the George Cross in 1942. The Grand Master's Palace was built between the 16th and 18th centuries as the palace of the Grand Master of the Order of St. John, who ruled Malta from 1530 to 1798 and was also known as the Magisterial Palace. When the knights were expelled by the Napoleonic France, it became the National Palace. During the period of British rule beginning in 1800, it was the Governor's Palace. Built in 1571, the House Knights of the Order of St. John from the Long of Aragon, Nova and Catalonia. This building is the only surviving ovoids in Valletta, which retains its original Mannerist design by the architect Girolamo Cassar. The Hospitaller Order of St. John, also known as the Knights of Malta, was founded by the Knights Hospitaller in Jerusalem by the Blessed Gerard. It is the world's oldest surviving order known for its military and chivalrous character. The Knights settled down in the town of Birgu. They strengthened the town's defenses and constructed new buildings to serve as their administrative offices, and reconstructed the ancient fortress Castrum Maris and named it Fort St. Angelo. From the new naval base, the Knights soon proved to be a challenge to the Ottomans. In 1565, the Ottoman Armada attacked Malta, a war that lasted 3 months. Under the leadership of Grand Master Jean Périssot de la Vallette, victory was secured. This famous battle is known as the Great Siege. After the Great Siege, the Knights were determined to turn Malta into a fortress that befitted a military order with a capital city worthy of the new illustrious order. The foundation stone was laid by de la Vallette, the city which would bear his name. Fort Tinier in Slima was built by the Order of St. John between 1793 and 1795 to protect the entrance to Marsamxett harbour. It's one of the oldest polygonal forts in the world. The fort was extensively altered by the British in the 19th century and it remained in use by the military until 1979. The Upper Baraka Gardens are located on the upper tier of Saints Peter and Paul Bastion, which was built in the 1560s. The gardens were originally used to offer recreation to the Knights of the Italian Long of the Order of St. John, but were opened to the public following the end of the French occupation of Malta in 1800. The garden's terraced arches were built in 1661 by the Italian knight Fra Flaminio Barbiani. They were originally roofed, but the ceiling was removed following the rising of the priests in 1775. The bastion's lower tier contains the saluting battery. The battery remained an active military installation until its guns were removed by the British in 1954. The saluting battery is an artillery battery constructed in the 16th century by the Order of St. John on or near the site of an Ottoman battery from the Great Siege of Malta. The battery forms the lower tier of St. Peter and Paul Bastion, located below the upper Baracca Gardens and overlooking Fort St. Angelo and the rest of the Grand Harbour. The garden's terrace offers a clear view over the Grand Harbour. From the balcony, you can see one of the most beautiful panoramic views in Malta, with the three cities as its backdrop. The saluting battery was mainly used for firing ceremonial gun salutes and signals, but it also saw military use during the blockade of 1798 to 1800 and World War II. It was restored and opened to the public in the early 21st century, and it is now equipped with 8 working replicas of SBBL 32 pounders which fire gun signals daily Monday to Saturday at 12 pm and 4 pm. Fort Ricasoli is a bastion fort in Kalkara, built by the Order of St. John between 1670 and 1698. It's not only the largest fort in Malta, but also the largest in Europe, and it has been on the tentative list of UNESCO World Heritage Sites.